I'm Ted Williams, the man with the golden voice. And my fellow Marion citizens, I present to you in this election year a new stimulus program. Marion's new stimulus program is fueled by gold. Not just gold, but U.S. gold. U.S. gold on Mount Vernon Avenue can put cash in your pocket today. Cash you can put to use right now. U.S. gold will not limit you to gold. Bring your silver, your diamonds too. All are welcome to some stimulus. Only at U.S. Gold, 1207 Mount Vernon Avenue, next to Perkins in Marion. Or give them a call at 740-751-6351. That's 740-751-6351. We're open Monday through Wednesday from 10 a.m. till 7 p.m., Thursday 10 a.m. till 5 p.m., Fridays 10 a.m. till 7 p.m., and Saturdays 11 till 5.
Are you looking for affordable office space in Marion? The Professional Building, located at 685 Delaware Avenue, is the place for you. For more information, call 740-383-6803. Office space is now available. Again, telephone number 740-383-6803.
This is the man with the golden voice, Ted Williams. And I recently learned the story of Willow the horse in Marion. Willow was rescued from going to a kill buyer. Her owner went to the city law director to see if a horse could be in the city limits, and he told her there were no laws against it. So on February 16, 2007, Willow, who was underfed and 300 pounds underweight, came to live in Marion. And in 2010, the city council made a law saying that horses were not allowed to be housed in the city limits. That came into effect on December 13, 2010. Now the city of Marion, Ohio, is trying to make Willow's owner remove Willow. All the laws have been followed when she come to live in Marion. The fight is still in court. If you would like to see Willow stay home, go to www.change.org/petition/SaveWillow and sign the online petition today.
Hey, this is Scott Spears. Welcome to another edition of Scott Spears Now. Today it is roundtable discussion heading into the next presidential election and all kinds of other stuff going on around Marion and the world. Joining me, recent inductee into the Broadcasting Hall of Fame and namesake of Buckeye Chuck, also creator of the Peanut Push, Charlie Evers. And across the table, we're joined by a good pal of mine, guest on this program many times, 40th Treasurer of the United States, Mary Ellen Withrow. I can't think of two better people to sit around and discuss politics and the world as we know it with.
Well, at least you've got somebody with knowledge.
Yeah, people who've been around the it's not these teeny boppers, they come in and they don't know anything. Charlie, before we get started, I don't know if you've talked about it anywhere but the radio, but I want to get it here.
I haven't been on the radio a while, so I haven't talked about it.
Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame, Charlie. It's lines like that that got him into the Hall of Fame. Tell me what it was like.
Well, it was really, you know, one of the most interesting things was that takes place right across from the hangar for the Goodyear blimp.
Is that right?
And so I was interested in that, and then I drove around and saw where the soapbox derby is held and the rubber bowl. I thought that was really neat, other than the ceremony.
Did the Hall of Fame itself mean anything to you? You were busy looking over at the Goodyear blimp.
Well,
did you like being inducted?
I didn't really know anyone there. I noticed there are a lot of famous people inducted into it from all over the country, but I saw only one other Hall of Famer was very friendly. It was like they were jealous of one another.
Well, this was held in Akron.
Yeah.
So it was quite a ways from your Marion stomping ground here.
Well, yes, that's for sure, yeah.
So, fun night, though?
Oh, yeah, it was
night.
Great.
Good. Do you have a memorable line from your acceptance speech that you remember?
No.
It was just thank you. Thank you and good night. We're going to have to get into other topics because Charlie's not talking about this at all. It's like confidential on Clue here.
Well, I have a plaque and I have a CD and a memento to put on my suit coat.
And you had a birthday since we've seen you last.
That's right. I'm getting closer to 80.
Getting closer to 80. Mary Ellen has had a birthday. Mary Ellen, happy belated birthday.
Yes, thank you very much.
And No, but do you like birthdays still at this?
I don't know. I milk it for all it's worth.
Well, you have to at this point in life.
Yes, that's right.
Now, what sign are you, Charlie? Do you know
Virgo.
that?
Virgo.
I've never followed. Now, are you a Virgo too, Mary
No,
Ellen?
I'm a Libra.
So you're right on the line there. Charlie's
Yeah.
late September,
Although
Mary Ellen's.
The doctor had to go away before he delivered me, and he had to hurry it up. So I
Did
might
he?
have been some other.
Were you cesarean?
No.
Oh, you were a forced
I was
labor?
born at home on my mother's bed,
Oh.
which I sleep in now every night.
You have your mother's bed?
Yes.
I
It's
do
held
too.
up.
I
Yeah.
do too.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
I sleep in my mother's bed every night.
Well.
Yes.
Now, wait a second. Mary Ellen, we brought the dress in that Mary Ellen was inaugurated in
Yeah.
her, and she doesn't care about that, but she has her mother's bed.
Yeah.
Well,
it really is.
it's a Jenny Lynn bed. It's an antique.
Oh, but there's the significance of it being your mother's bed?
Well, she refinished it.
Oh,
she,
okay.
She bought it somewhere, I forget where. I think over at Stratford, and refinished it. And I'm telling you, you know what a Jenny Lynn bed is.
Yes.
All the spokes.
Oh,
She
boy.
worked very hard on that.
I bet she did.
Yeah.
Now, my mother had, when she got married, she bought this whole suit, and I've got everything. It was a, what do they call it, bird?
Oh, bird's eye maple.
Bird's eye maple.
Yes. Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's a bird's eye maple
Yes.
bed and dresser and rocker and
Yeah.
sewing table, and it really, it's nice to go to bed at night and say, "This is where I was born."
I don't know where
right.
my mother's bed is.
Is that right?
She's still sleeping in it, I think. I don't have mother's bed yet. Topic today on the program is a little political, a little entertainment. David Letterman has went on his program as of late, saying that if Mitt Romney does not come on his program, that people should not vote for Mitt Romney. Obama has been to the Late Show with David Letterman. Romney has not, and Letterman has made this into a running gag on his show. But is it a gag? Republicans are not very happy with this, and Charlie, should Letterman be doing something like that?
He's doing it for show business. That's the whole thing. He's getting a lot of attention because of that. That's the main reason he's doing it.
That is the main reason, but I think, I would say the Daily Show's entertainment too, but people believe it. And I think David Letterman is the Johnny Carson of today, and when he says specifically, don't vote for that person, yes, he's getting attention, but I bet you there are people who will not vote for Mitt Romney because David
think
Letterman's...
so?
I do. I think people can be led anywhere nowadays. What do you think, Mary Ellen?
Well, I think it's a good thing.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew. Do you think what if the entertainment person went up and said, don't vote for Barack Obama? Should they do that?
What person? Who are you talking
Say
about?
if David Letterman did that.
Oh, but he isn't going to do it.
Right.
No, he won't. He wouldn't do that.
Do you think there's something behind this? Do you think he really wants Obama to win?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
Mhm. Have you listened to his show?
Yeah, see, now that's where I disagree with Charlie. I don't think it's pure entertainment.
No,
I
think there's
really
an
think there's a
object. I think there's an
Oh.
objective there, which he can do whatever he wants as long as he can get away with it with his sponsors and everybody.
I think it's fine that he does it. I just hope people do their own homework. Make your decision based on your homework.
Oh, of course.
Not what David Letterman
Yeah,
says.
but my decision hasn't been made on David Letterman's decision.
Right, but what you're right, and mine hasn't either, and I
Yes.
don't think Charlie's has. But I think people could be swayed by that. We love entertainment in this society now.
Well, it's hard to say. I'm always surprised at what people will, I'll use the word believe, because there's been a lot of things on the air lately that are not true. And it's been interesting to just watch how, an ad comes on that makes a statement, then another ad comes on that discredits it. And I don't have to say, who those ads are for, but believe me, they're pretty bad.
I think you're right. I think
Yes.
sometimes I am surprised at politics in general now. I went to the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts wreath laying at the tomb of President Harding, and Harding was a Republican, and people came together, and we had a Democratic mayor there speaking. I don't think it was like this then. I think politics has gotten so mean and so harsh It's. I would be scared to run for office today. I think it's a noble profession, but boy, they just everything but the kitchen sink.
Yeah,
But-
maybe it wasn't quite this bad earlier, but during Harding's campaign, I've got a couple of books I've read, and you wouldn't believe all the nasty things that were going on then.
But I think the difference
Wow.
is the media wasn't there then to spread them.
That's right.
Yeah.
The media is the difference. Everything is immediate today, and it's chewed over and over and over. And they didn't have that. You know, it didn't really start until probably Ike or, you know, it was in right around in that
It would've
era
been,
where,
yes,
yeah, when it got
Eisenhower.
more so.
Well, this presidential election had started a year ago, over a year ago.
Oh,
I mean,
yes,
we just
yeah.
start so early and are so inundated.
Mhm.
Haven't had a chance to talk about this with anybody on any kind of air recently, but I want to go through the debates here because I found those very interesting. First presidential debate happened, and by and large, the public said that Romney won that one pretty hands down. Charlie, what was your take on the first presidential
Well, yeah, I was
debate?
kind of disappointed in Obama. He acted like he wasn't fully energized. And even though he had trained, I understand, but he just kind of let himself down a little. So what do you, the next debate will tell the story.
Mary Ellen, what did you think of that first debate?
Well, I thought he could have done a much better job, and I sure hope he does a better job on this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was surprised at how much it swung the polls. I don't know what these polls mean, but they certainly changed
Well,
quite
like
a bit.
they say, polls or debates do not select a president. The people don't regard the winner or loser of a debate as the one they're going to vote or not vote for.
I think you're right about that, but why did so many people all of a sudden, was it independents who came to a decision that day? What was all that about? Because I know they said Romney went up in women, went up among independents, which could change between now and then, but that was the feeling, I think, Mary Ellen.
I've had some people say to me that they don't know who they're going to vote for, and I find that very strange because I guess, you know, I've made such a life in politics that I prefer to watch MSNBC totally. I get so much enjoyment out of it, and I don't think other people do.
Well, I was surprised. I got to tell you, when the first debate was over, I flipped over to MSNBC, and Chris Matthews was horrified by Obama's performance.
He looked like he'd been shot at and missed. He absolutely, and so did Ed Schultz.
I couldn't, you know, and try to stay impartial as a broadcaster. I'm not going to say where I fall. People, I guess, can guess it. But I was shocked at Obama's performance. I really was.
I was too.
I was watching that, and I couldn't understand where his head was.
Well, I'm wondering if it was the fact that there was no, what do you call it,
Prompter?
teleprompter. He doesn't work well without a teleprompter. And I'm really surprised because he's a very good speaker.
Well, maybe it was in the prep. I don't know. Well, I tell you what. Let's go on to the one that I found far more interesting, but which means far less, I guess. The vice presidential debate.
That was
Boy,
interesting.
oh
That was a
boy,
good one.
Yeah.
that was a television
I
show,
enjoyed
wasn't it?
that.
Yeah.
Holy moly!
Yeah.
Charlie, who do you think won that?
Well, it was pretty obvious. Vice President Biden won that one.
But
But
people would have you
Rush
believe
Limbaugh
different.
And Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity said, "Oh, that was he did the worst job he's ever done in his life. That was terrible." Of course, they're kind of prejudiced, to say the
Yeah,
least.
right.
Well,
But I just really enjoyed Joe Biden in that debate.
Boy, I'll tell you, he came out. If anybody ever thought Joe Biden wasn't a fully formed politician,
Oh, yes.
my
Yes.
goodness!
He's a good one.
I mean, he made Ryan, you know, God bless him, made him look terrible. I mean, it was for everything Obama didn't do. I mean, he better show up to Joe Biden's debate practice because my
yeah.
goodness, what do you think, Mary Al?
Oh, I was laughing, but I watched Saturday Night Live last night, and they told Ryan to quit staring at the television. It was scaring the little children.
You know, I got a little angry after that debate, I got to say. I went to Facebook, and I probably shouldn't have done that. But the people who are Romney supporters were on Facebook, and all they could say was how rude Joe Biden was.
yeah.
He interrupted. He smiled. We can't smile at What do you make of that, Charlie? Is that a big deal?
No, because if you were listening on radio, you didn't see all that.
but it's not a radio age anymore.
No, but nevertheless, I enjoyed every minute of it.
Did that make you angry that he interrupted or smiled or did any of that?
He was an older, more experienced politician that knew a lot more facts than Ron, or what's his name?
Paul
Ryan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mary Ellen, people beat him above the head and shoulders for smiling and for
I know.
interrupting. What do you make of that?
Oh,
Does that matter?
I thought he did a great job, and I really liked the moderator too.
Yes.
She was very, she handled it very well. I always liked Blair, but I didn't think he handled that first debate very
Terribly.
well.
No, he
yeah,
didn't.
Terribly.
I think part of it was his. Well, it wasn't his fault, but part of it was not good because of the way things were with the management of it.
I think you're right.
Martha Raddatz, so she's been to Iraq. She's been all over the world. She knows what's going on, and she's just one intelligent lady. My
Yes.
goodness.
And they kept saying the day before that Obama had come to her wedding.
Oh, 20-some
Oh,
years
yes,
ago.
yes.
Yes, and that they were no longer married.
Oh, my.
But that was the subject the day before. But now, they are really doing their research.
No, they're digging.
Yeah.
Was
They're
Martha
digging.
married to the head of the
I don't-
Greenspan, or what's his name?
I don't. No, not Greenspan.
No.
Mitchell married to Greenspan.
Oh, Mitchell.
Andrea
yeah.
Mitchell.
Andrea Mitchell.
Mhm.
You're right.
Well, here we go. Biden, I think the consensus at this table is that he won the second debate. Consensus pretty well that Romney won the first debate. We're heading into the second one now. We've got two left. Charlie, what's going to happen?
Well, all I can say is I hope that Obama saw and took to heart what happened in his first debate and changes 180 degrees.
Will Romney be big time on the defense? Because he's got to know it's coming
he
now.
will, sure. Mr. Clean.
Mary Ellen, what predict the debate coming up for us? What's going to
Well,
happen?
they said that Obama looked at watched the debates, and I think that is so important. That's probably the best training that they could have for him, because when I do a commercial, I like to look at it and see what's wrong with it, and because you don't know what you're doing, sometimes you're not acting the way you should be acting, and you have to look at it. And I don't know what the president thought, but it was, I think, mostly when he was looking down, it made him look like he'd done something wrong, and that you have to stare at the person. I mean, I know that. And I've done some debates, I might add. I never met the woman, and I did a debate with her, Judith Brockman, back a few years ago. And, it's such an interesting thing. Politics is so interesting.
And will go on forever.
Yes,
Because it
well, I hope so.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
it boggles the mind.
I don't want a king,
No, no. Well, I tell you what, one of the things in politics that we certainly can agree on here and talk about is there is a lot of ads. Ads. And one ad, as of late, came out of that first debate between Romney and President Obama and caused a stir. Now, for the audience out there who didn't see it, let's play that ad, and then we'll come back and talk about it. It's caused quite
I'm
a
Barack
stir.
Obama, and I approve this message.
Bernie Madoff, Ken Lay, Dennis Kozlowski, criminals, gluttons of greed, and the evil genius who towered over them. One man has the guts to speak his name.
Big Bird. Big Bird. Big Bird.
It's me, Big Bird.
Big, yellow, a menace to our economy. Mitt Romney knows it's not Wall Street you have to worry about. It's Sesame Street.
I'm going to stop the subsidy to PBS.
Mitt Romney taking on our enemies no matter where
Well,
they
there's a
nest.
political ad for you, like the likes of which I don't think we saw on President Harding's day. Since that, Romney's campaign is really saying
Oh,
that is
boy.
despicable, and Children's Television Workshop, who owns Sesame Street, has asked the Obama campaign
Yeah.
to take that down.
Scratch
They
it.
said Big Bird is not political. What do you think, Charlie?
I think so too. But of course, Romney is saying now that Obama thinks more of Big Bird than he does the nation's economy, and goes on and on and on.
Well, let's try to look at the ad. Was the ad wrong, in your opinion?
Well, yeah.
Because
I-
remember, Obama had, it starts off by saying this has been approved.
It was overly done. That is, too much attention to Big Bird. I mean, it was, well, how do you put it? It was a Big Bird of course, is known by everybody, and especially the kids.
Oh.
And I like Big. I've often wondered too. You know, Big Bird always has one hand that doesn't move, and does he? And I'm wondering how he's inside that suit, and makes his head and his other arm. You know, that's what I think about.
I have no idea what that had to do with the question.
No,
but we
that's
drove
what I'm
over
saying,
there.
That I think more about how Big Bird operates than what effect he. Of course, I don't want Romney to cut his funding on PBS. I watch PBS more than anything else.
Should they take it down? Because Children's
they might
Television Workshop
Yeah.
asked them
Oh,
to.
yeah. Though it'd be sued if they don't.
Well, who knows?
Yeah.
Bernie Madoff could sue, I guess, too. He didn't come up looking too well. Mary Ellen, what'd you think of the ad?
Oh, it didn't bother me. I'll tell you, I thought Michelle Bachmann had the best approach to Big Bird of anybody, where she talked, that's education, and she said they're trying to do away with a thing that's a good educational tool, and I liked her approach to it, and I think she's doing a fine job out there, by the way, and I think Bill Clinton's doing a fine job too.
Do you think if Children's Television Workshop says we want you to take that down, that they should?
I don't know. I can't say they should or they shouldn't. It doesn't make any difference to me.
Yeah. Well, I think I think it became interesting because obviously I think this is to say if you are like Romney, Big Bird's going away, and I think Children's Television Workshop is saying we don't want to be involved in politics. Please don't do that. So I don't know.
It might have been better if the campaign would have said that. We don't like the fact that Romney wants to get rid of public funding for the public television and not even mention Big Bird, but just the fact that that's something that needs funding by the U.S. government. It doesn't supply all the money to PBS, but the Big Bird part of it, I know, attracted a lot of attention.
Well, the thing of it all was the percentage that PBS takes is very small.
Yeah.
I mean, many zeros out there. It's hardly minute, hardly a point at all. Something going on here in Marion in the political realm. We have a issue coming up, Marion Income Tax Levy, Issue 6. I talked with somebody very high up in the city today, and apparently a poll was done in September, and 63% of people at that point say they are going to vote in favor of Issue 6, which is the 0.25 increase in taxes in Marion City that will hopefully get police officers and fire people back to work, as I understand it. Am I wrong about that, Mary Ellen?
No.
Yeah, that's
correct.
That's the layout.
Yes.
Which obviously, if anybody's gotten any literature, it's been set out. You supported it. Why did you come out for that?
I came out for it because I thought, we need to be protected. This is such a community. I really feel that coming back to Marion, the feeling of community here. And, the streets are in bad shape and stores are empty, and I thought, I've got to put my name on it because whether it's a success or not, I'm going to be involved. And so that's how I felt. I felt we had to be protected.
I've heard a lot of people say they're afraid that possibly they'll pass it and then the money won't go for what they said it would go for.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I've heard too many people involved in it say that, it's not going to go for raises, it's not going to go for things that are like that. It's for things that are really necessary. And they just don't have enough manpower. We need protection.
Charlie, what do you make of this?
I'm on the committee that's supporting the issue number 5, sales tax increase, and I'm all for that. And it was pointed out at our organizational meeting by the sheriff. A lot of nights there's one deputy patrolling Marion County. And, of course, the thieves know this, and a lot of times they put in false calls to get that deputy one side of the county, then while they steal from another side.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to correct that.
The opposition will say to both of these things, and I don't think the county tax is doing as well as the city. We'll see what happens in November. The opposition will say that they can cut corners other ways than taking it out. That's what they'll say. Not me, but that's what they'll say.
Yeah.
What do you think of that, Charlie?
I just don't believe it. I mean, they've cut apparently all they can cut, and I'll sure support that. That's such an infinitesimal increase. I mean, I have, what, a 0.5%? That's next to nothing. And all the counties around us have 7% sales tax.
That's true.
Marion's like an island in the middle. There's one county in Ohio, I mean, 7% is about the maximum, except Cuyahoga County. They're a little higher than that.
You're exactly right. Every county that touches us, 7%, and most of the counties in Ohio are 7% or better.
I think it's a shame. Of course, the state needs money to operate, but the state takes most of that sales tax. They take everything but 1%, is it?
Well, they cut Marion, what was it, $2 million?
Yeah.
And I was asking about that because all of the county offices have cut back their hours or their employees, and it's really been a cutback on having the ability to do what they're supposed to do. I've listened to every office, the treasurer's office, the recorder's office, the judges, and the people that talk about the jails and so forth, and it's really despicable. I think that the governor and the legislature have cut back all of the counties, and that they have, as I understand it, $400,000 in their rainy day fund.
It's interesting. Do you think
Or
that
excuse me, 400 million.
millions?
Yeah.
Yes.
See, I got my thousands and my millions mixed
No,
up.
it happens. It happens. Mary Ellen, do you think, as an electorate, as a society, that we are well informed when we go into that voting booth?
Well, I think people try to inform us. There's certainly a lot of information out there. It depends on whether people want to listen or not.
I think it's interesting because there is also so much misinformation. So I don't know if people really know what the truth is when they walk in.
I think a lot of people go in and have no idea what they're, except maybe for president, and maybe for mayor and things like that, but there are judges and there are issues. These need to be studied.
They do need to be studied, and we will see what happens as we head into November. I wanted to end on a non-political note today. This is going to be a segue, but it's an interesting story, I thought. Taylor Swift, the country singer who does all her songs seem to be based as of late on relationships she's had, walked out of an interview or walked away for a second or got mad because she did not want to hear criticism in the interview from an ex-boyfriend, John Mayer, who's also very popular in the music industry. But Cynthia McFadden was the interviewer. She said they went out and solicited a quote from John Mayer. John Mayer said something negative about Taylor Swift, and Taylor didn't like it. Is that showbiz, Charlie, or should you be confronted with stuff like that? Would you like to be confronted with stuff like that?
Okay, when we pay so much attention to show business, you wouldn't think we had any problems in the country, you know. People, there's all these shows on the air, Entertainment Tonight, and
yeah, but I think if we listened to hard news all the time and that's all we ever got, I think we'd all be depressed. I think we'd all have to go get the Zoloft pills.
Now, listening to Rush Limbaugh, you get depressed.
Well, that's show business. That's show business. I don't think that's.
And Sean Hannity, I'm Sean Hannity.
Now tell me this. Now, if somebody can explain this to me, I'll be happy to listen. I'm driving home one night, and I turned on Sean Hannity by accident. Bam, he's on the radio. And he starts his program by saying, this is the Stop Obama Express.
Yes, yes.
And then, in the same sentence, he says, this is the most accurate information source. Now, how can you be accurate when you start your program
That's
like
another
that?
show business thing. Both he and Limbaugh and Mark Levin and all the others.
But people believe it.
I wonder. They've never had any effect that I know of on what happens electorally, have they?
I don't know. I don't know. I think a lot of people do follow.
Of course, they
them.
claim that they instituted the Republican comeback, didn't they, in the last big election when we went from an all-Democratic Congress to Republicans in the Senate, is it? Or the
No,
Congress?
the Senate's Democratic.
Okay.
The Congress is Republican.
Yeah, okay. Didn't they give themselves credit for Republicans getting the majority in that?
Oh, you mean the news people?
The
Those
Hannity
guys?
and all those, yeah.
I've never heard this guy. What's his name?
Oh, you haven't?
Oh.
No.
Oh, you talk about Mr. Cocky.
You
Well,
might want
I
to take
know
a
I
blood
would-
pressure pill
Oh.
before you listen.
I
there,
wouldn't.
Ellen.
I wouldn't like him. I
Yeah.
know that
Yeah.
from just listening to what you say. But well, I always felt that there were too many that were on. I didn't think we had enough on our side. We didn't have enough liberal.
Yeah, where are the liberals?
Well, MSNBC. That's about
that
it.
right?
That's about it.
I read an article one time that said the reason, because they did try once with Air America. They tried to be the all-liberal radio station. Didn't work. Al Franken was there and some other people. I think Rachel Maddow came from there, and so did Ed Schultz. But the understanding that I got from this article was one time, and take it for what you will, that conservatives listen to Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Glenn Beck, Bill O'Reilly, but liberals listen to NPR and CNN, and
Oh,
it's
that's
more
why.
middle of the
Yeah.
road. They try to listen to both. Well, the term liberal, I mean, the definition of liberal is not coming into a situation with any preconceived ideas, which hopefully that's what we do. I mean, if you come into something with your mind made up, that's probably not good.
But, you know, all you hear is conservatism on the radio, on all these different shows. I get emails, absolutely unbelievable emails against Obama, telling stories about him that I can't believe. I mean, the campaign is on. It's terrible.
Yeah, I had somebody that was a minister the other day say he was a Muslim, and I was like shocked.
Oh,
I know it's pretty bad out there.
a lot of them call him a Nazi,
Yeah, I know.
fascist, whatever.
It's awful. Yeah.
What do we do, though, when we're in those places and somebody says something like that? Because when it's a minister, when it's a reverend, when it's somebody you like, it's hard sometimes to say, boy, are you wrong?
Well, there's whether you want to argue with them or not. Are you going to change their mind? No.
No.
I feel that that's not my position to try to argue with people. And when once in a while I will, if somebody says something wrong, I'll correct it. But I was not going to get into an argument on that, because how did he know? How do I know? But I think he's a Christian. He said he's a Christian. You should take his word for it.
Well, my worry is in a group like that, a reverend has a lot of pull. And when he says it, I know you're not going to change the reverend's mind, but the people who heard that coming from the reverend, a great many people look up to a reverend. And what he says is the way. And when he says something like that, and everybody hears it, and nobody disputes him, that's what gets me. I don't think you'll ever change the reverend's mind, but it's the people in between that I worry about.
You're hearing more and more political campaigning on the pulpit.
Oh.
And despite the fact that isn't there a law that they could lose their nonprofit status doing that?
I don't know if there's a law, but they're not supposed to. But I'll tell you, you go to Cleveland to the black churches, that's all you hear is politics. I mean, that when you're running for office, like when I ran for a statewide office, I spent a lot of time going to the black churches, and they really voice their opinion. But I remember also back when I was working on the casino, the churches all came out against the casino, and so that's what.
Well, that's right.
Yeah,
Still it
yeah.
went through. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that brings up a very touchy debate in society of, is that the separation of church and state, or is that religious freedom to do that? I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Originally, separation of church and state meant that we would have no national religion.
Right.
Like England, like the...
Mm-hmm. I always questioned what George Bush did about his approach he took to the churches. Do you remember when he hadn't been in office very long? What did he do with the churches? And I thought, I don't think that's good. There should be a division between church and state.
Well, I know one thing he did that was kind of unsettling to a lot of people was having a religious office in the White House, which had not
Yes.
been done.
Well, that's true.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And I also remember a lot of his decisions, he said, were based on prayer.
Mhm.
Now, of course, if people want to pray, that's fine. But is that separation of church and state, or is that what? I don't know. It's
Well, it's not naming a religion as our national religion, is it?
no. But do you want the commander-in-chief making a decision against for you based on his prayer of his religion?
I think what I'm trying to think of had to do with money, though. Money went to some churches or something. There was some involvement
There
of
is-
money.
Yeah, there's a, there's a name for it.
Yeah. Okay, well, I can't remember what it was, but I know at the time I thought there's something wrong with that.
Well, it's scary to me that the facts are. Well, here's one thing that was very interesting to me. After the vice presidential debate the other night, Martha Raddatz's last question was about abortion, which I thought was very interesting.
It was interesting.
That-
That was a
yeah.
surprise.
I thought it
yes,
was.
right.
And when the debate was over, one of the news channels was polling the talk on the internet, and abortion was about 50% what people cared about. Wasn't the economy, wasn't Iran, wasn't the weapons of mass destruction, wasn't who has what, wasn't Libya, it was abortion. Now, I don't think you're ever going to have a church say abortion is okay. So, what do you do if you're a person who supports the right to choose? You're always going to be in conflict with the church, I think. Maybe not personally.
That's
But
a
like Joe
yeah.
Biden said, he said, you know, I believe a woman has the right to choose, but I'm a good Catholic, which is fine.
Mhm.
So he makes that in his own mind. But as a person making laws in the White House, if you are wearing your religion on your shoulder, I don't think your minister, your preacher, your father is ever going to say abortion's okay, or gay marriage. And I think that's where the problem comes. Because it's not a decision on what the country wants, it's a decision on what you believe. Is there any truth to that, Mary Ellen?
Well, you do not want the government telling you what you have to do. We need freedom. And this is the big thing about the Supreme Court. There's 3 justices that are going to probably leave during this next administration. And we don't want 3 very conservative judges that are going to reverse Roe versus Wade, because I can remember the days before Roe versus Wade, and there was a lot of bad things went on. Then you need it to be controlled by law, and that's very necessary.
Charlie, are we really, if you look back to the 1960s and 70s, are we really the trendsetters that we were in the world then? I mean, women wanted equal pay back then. You heard about it all the time. They burned their bras. They did these things. You had the kids on college campuses protesting for their right for this. People had meetings. Certainly civil rights was very hot and active back then. People were leading silent protests. Roe versus Wade was passed. The separate but equal was finally thrown out of the books and signed in by Lyndon Johnson. We have become, I think, a conservative nation. We don't even think about it. I don't think the majority of people voting this year will think that Roe v. Wade could be overturned, and if it is, I don't think they care. I really don't. I don't think it's a big issue for them.
I was interested in what Romney, statement he made concerning abortion, and to kind of backtrack a little bit because he was against abortion and so forth. He started to say, well, I don't think there's any law pending that, you know, if he were to become president, that he would have a chance to vote one way or the other. And so he was backing out of his strong anti-abortion to win more votes, period.
I think that's exactly
Pure
right.
and simple.
But when we come to that, Mary Ellen, are we as revolutionary as we were back then, or are we a more conservative nation? I mean,
You know why?
why is that?
And I think we are a little more conservative because people don't remember what women had to go through.
That could be.
They did not. It's been too long ago, and you know, I hear these young girls talking, and they have no idea what went on in the days that I can remember. Yeah.
Well, that's what worries me, and this will be our last topic of conversation in this episode, which I think has been a really good one. When it comes to civil rights, for one, the big slogan was, "We shall overcome." I think now, somebody said it the other day, we shall overcome what? I don't think people remember what it was like when you went to the South and you couldn't use the same bathroom. So
Right.
they don't understand when somebody says something, and I think saying the president was not from America is a horrible thing to say.
Yes.
So I'll go on record on that one, because I don't think that's a liberal or conservative issue. That's just this president's from the United States, and let's get off that. That's so stupid.
Yeah.
It's ignorant. But do people understand what's being taken away? When the Patriot Act came down, I said, my goodness, habeas corpus is gone. They're allowed to tap your phone now and use it against you. Do you really have free speech now? Do people care?
Well, all the things you talked about have been settled more or less, and the younger generation has no idea, like you say, of what happened before. That's why we have history in schools, to teach what it was like back then, although they may not be doing an excellent job of teaching all the nitty-gritty of what went on in the old days. But like you say, Mary Ellen, women went through an awful lot trying to have equality with men in employment, in their rights, and what they made by the hour. It always struck me as, why would a woman be paid less than a man for doing the same work?
Well, what did they call those? Shrinking violets, was that the term they called the women back then who were...
Well, it was the way life was, but I had a book, and I can't find it, that talked about what women went through just to vote. They were imprisoned. They didn't feed them. It was terrible. They tried to starve them in prison, and just the right to vote. My goodness, and we take that for granted. And then I watch them talking about taking away Planned Parenthood, that does a lot of good, and you realize that we've got good things that we've worked for years to get, and what's going to happen if a certain person gets elected,
Well, the interesting thing is, and Mary Ellen and I talked about this on an episode, this whole thing that's going on with voter suppression, as they call it, in a lot of states. And, people are suing the states, and things are happening, and are people going to be allowed to vote, and this whole bit. I think Mary Ellen said in that episode that was a political thing, that it'll hurt the Democrats more than it will hurt the Republicans. But honest to goodness, I want to think when I go to bed at night that that's not a political thing. I want to think that a Republican or a conservative is going to say, you don't turn people away at the polls. I mean, this is ridiculous. You can't do this. But nobody does. I mean, it has become political. What do you make of that? I mean, you've lived in this time, Charlie.
Yeah, right. I think maybe we ought to go to that, putting your index finger in ink to show you voted. I think having to show your driver's license after you're a registered voter. They see that. They see your signature as a registered voter, yet you got to show them your driver's license.
And if you don't drive, and if you can't get
Right.
there, and who knows what's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
But Mary Ellen, I mean, wouldn't we hope that it wasn't political? It might be.
Oh,
but
it is political,
Okay.
Scott.
I watched-
Just realize that why are they doing it? They're doing it in areas that are black areas. It's so obvious what they're doing.
I guess what I'm saying then is, if it's political, how can that person, just for political gain, go to bed knowing they turned an American away at the poll?
How can people in Congress vote against things that are wrong to vote against? And they do it every day. It's sad that people put themselves before their country, and they do it all the time, trying to get reelected, whatever they're trying to do.
And how do we change it? What do we do?
You try to get somebody in that's not going to be like that. And, I just feel it's so important that we get the right people in the Congress, the legislature, the Senate, and really watch who we vote for.
I think you're right, and I think it's a very important election coming up.
It is.
I think we're going to We're going to find out a lot of things. I tell you what, we're going to get back together before election time, I'm sure, and if not, after election time, we'll talk about what happened during the election. It's good to be back with you both again. It's always fun. Enjoy it. Mary Ellen.